The three main reasons why I became a minimalist. I've mentioned it before that pregnancy really can change a person. I'm responsible now for another human being. Therefore, I have to take care of my home and what I own so I could be a good example to my child. When I was 6 weeks pregnant, I started going to church. I started to read my Bible again. I had already read it several times before, but with having your hormones kind of rule your day-to-day circumstances and being a mother, it changed my whole perspective on how I deciphered verses. When I was reading the Gospels, there was this portion where this young man, they call him like the rich young ruler or the rich young man, depending on which version you're reading. He goes up to Jesus and he goes, "Hey, what do I have to do to have eternal life?" And Jesus is like, "Well, have you obeyed the commandments?" If you're not familiar with the 10 commandments, they're just a basic list of how to treat people properly and how you should live your life. It's pretty simple, but at the same time very difficult, depending on how you look at it. So this man said, "Oh, well, what are the commandments that I should follow?" And Jesus starts listing through some of them. "Oh, I've done all those things." And Jesus says, "Well, what you need to do, sell all you have, give to the poor, and follow me." He was basically saying, give up everything that you have worked really hard for, give it all up. He gets a little sad and he goes, "Oh." And he walks away sadly. And Jesus has compassion on him. I was affected majorly by that. I started to break it apart, and then I started to fix those issues. Okay, well, maybe I need to work on this thing. And when I did that, I realized that my possessions meant too much to me. I really liked spending money. I really liked the things I owned. I felt, I've been married for, at that time, it was 2.5 years. I was like, am I willing to do that? So I was so deeply affected that I started selling everything I owned, literally. And I started to even ask my husband, "Hey, can I sell some of your stuff?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry." And if you're new here, this is my third baby. He just woke up, so he's sad. You're sad, you want to be cozy? In September of 2007, I went to an event and I learned about human trafficking issues. I had not known about a lot of the fact that modern day slavery was around. I had no idea. So I started researching nonstop. I read over 100 books. I've seen so many documentaries. At this point right now, as I'm speaking, I'm 10 years working with a nonprofit fighting human trafficking as the resources advisor. Learning about that, I thought about the fact that these people have nothing and I have so much. So I was learning different ways that I could help these people. Those three things combined made me a very passionate person. The actual term minimalism, this was before people had access to Marie Kondo stuff. It was before the Minimalists had their documentary. Before so many of these people, Joshua Becker, none of these people maybe even were minimalists yet or were into organizing or decluttering. It was not a thing yet. My husband, he started to get, I'm in on getting rid of all of my stuff too and sell things. So I'm like, really? So then I went even crazier and I was like, yes, I can finally clean out even more stuff. So we sold so many things. I made a few $1,000s selling some of our stuff. We were able to get out of debt. It totally helped us in so many ways. And it just makes my life more simple, more fun, more at ease. The way I view things now through a different lens. Now it's like, okay, well, am I helping people through my purchase? Am I doing something that doesn't just seem like an impulse buy? Yeah, you're saying hi, you're waving. Hi, everyone. Hi. Then I started thinking about how I can help the environment on top of it. So my minimalism, it might be different than yours, and it might be different than someone else. And maybe you're not a minimalist and you're like, wow, this is kind of crazy. Why would someone want to get rid of all their stuff? And I've raised my children as minimalists. This one is going to be raised as one. And it's funny because just the other day, this is a side note real quick, my oldest son, he wants to be an environmental scientist of some sort. He is 17 years old at this point that I do this video. In his environmental science class, did a test to find out his carbon footprint. And he was like, I was the lowest in the whole grade. And he was so happy about it. He was like, thank you. Like, I'm so glad that I have a low carbon footprint. And I said, but you know what? We still have too much if you think about it. And there's so many things that we need to change still. We are just doing a little bit of what we can for the people of the world, for the environment, and for ourselves, because I believe I am supposed to be a good steward, to love my neighbor as myself. Jesus, it is said that he had nowhere to rest his head. You know, he was basically homeless if you think about it. So while I have still so much, I feel like I have so far to go still. We all have a story. Everyone that I've met who is a minimalist, they all have a different way of how they got there. And I still am finding myself getting rid of things. I'd rather have as little as I can. If I want something, I have to make sure it's something I really need. And if I want something, I have to be like, how is this going to add value to my life? Is it actually giving value to my life at all? So my question for you, if you have made it through this whole video, how are you living your life? What are you living for? Who are you living for? Are the things that you're obsessed with adding value to your life and other people's lives? Are you willing to make any sacrifices? Okay, say bye-bye. Say bye-bye. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.